Well, everybody, we're back in the kitchen today. Of course, that's where we always meet. Today we're going to be making some pickles. I'm going to show you how I do it. These are my aunt's pickles. I call her my Nan. These are my favorite pickles. They have cucumbers and onions in them and some spices. I'll be showing you what those are later. But this is my process on how I do it. I did go to the market yesterday up on a farm not too far from here, and I got a big box of cucumbers, if you can see them. So I'm going to be working with these today. I've already got one batch going because it is a kind of a long process, because once you slice them, you got to put salt and ice on them and get them in like a salt solution, and it pulls out all the moisture, because you don't want a lot of moisture in pickles because that's what makes them soggy. So it's a 3-hour step covered with salt. So I've already got one batch going. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this batch. And these are sweet pickles. I just wanted to let you know that. So they do have a lot of sugar in them, but they are so yummy. So let me show you how I do this. I won't be talking a whole lot. I'm just going to kind of show you what I do. First thing I'm going to do is get these in a sink with a little bit of cold water. I'm going to wash them off real good, make sure there's no dirt or anything on them, and then we'll start slicing. And for this recipe, you need 6 quarts of cucumbers sliced, 6 large white onions, which I have a hard time finding white onions sometimes. So I've used Vidalia's before. I've used yellow onions. I've used sweet onions. I don't really think it matters in the recipe, but I'm going to get some in here. Like I said, you need 6 quarts of sliced cucumbers. They're not pickles yet. So I think I got enough for now. So let me get that in there. I've already washed these 3 off, but it ain't going to hurt them. Just want to get them really rinsed off really good. Make sure there's no mud on them, which these right here look really good. There's no dirt or anything like that on them. Like I said, if there is, just get it off. It's not going to hurt anything. They grow on the ground. Alright. Got that done. Get a little knife. And we're going to start cutting the ends off. I like to keep my trash can right here while I do this. Let's see if you can get you down here where you can see what I'm doing. And yes, I am barefoot in the kitchen today, so if anybody sees my feet, I apologize. I very seldom ever wear shoes in the house. It's rare if you see me have shoes on in the house. So all I'm doing is just cutting the ends off. If I see any bad spots, I'll go ahead and cut that off too, but these right here look really good. They've just been picked. We drove about 45 minutes yesterday and went and picked up a box. A box of cucumbers in my area run about $18. So, and I know I'll get at least 3, possibly 4 batches of pickles out of this. And each batch makes between 6 and 8, depending on how big, how tight I pack my jars. So, and I did find some different jars today when I went to go get some canning jars at Walmart. I found some 3/4 pints. I've never seen those before, so I picked those up. Now, don't cut off more ends than what you need to get your 6 quarts. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I'm going to move you back up so you can see what I'm doing. Alright. That looks about good. Sorry about that. Alright, and I have a mandolin. I'm scared to death of these things, but these things right here are just, oh, fabulous. So you want to set, now mine, you can set your depth on it. I've had them in the past where you've put a cartridge in and it's already got like a preset depth. But this one, I don't know if you can tell or not. Let's see. This one has a dial on the back, and you can adjust your depth of your blade, which I really like that. This is how I do my corn. I take it to the lowest setting, and I've got it on between 3 and 4 to do my cucumbers. What I like to do, and this, like I said, I'm scared to death of these things. I really need to order me a glove on Amazon that you can't cut, because this thing scares me. But all I do is I'm going to cut a few, and you can see how thick I cut these. I don't know if you can see that or not. That's about how thick I like to cut my pickles. So I'm going to go ahead and get these sliced up. Like I said, this bowl right here is actually a really good bowl because it has a 6-quart marking, so I'll know when to stop. But once I get down to about there, I like to put the guard on it. The only thing is, when you put the guard on it, it does poke 3 holes in the top of your cucumber, so people are probably going to wonder why there's 3 holes in the top of their pickle when they go to eat the pickles. But I don't really like to put the guard on like this. As you can see, it doesn't move very good. I'm going to take that off and get it down a little bit. So this is the first canning I'm doing this year. I'm so excited. Friday I'm going and getting my green beans. I'm picking up a bushel Friday. I was hoping to get at least 4 to 5 bushels. That's usually what I like to put up. That lasts me and my family a good while, and I'm able to give my family some. My mom, my dad, my sisters, my brothers, if they want any, I'm able to give them some. But green beans aren't doing too good in our area right now. It's so hot. Y'all's area is hot. I mean, we've been in the 90s for like a week or longer, and they're projected next week to be just as hot. So it's really hurting the farmers. Plus, our farmers market is closed right now, so due to COVID, they're only open on Saturdays, and if you don't get down there Saturday mornings when they open, you're not going to get a thing. So I drove to the lady's farm that I usually buy from. She lives about, like I said, 40-45 minutes away, and I was able to get my cucumbers, and she's going to bring my green beans to the farmer's market Saturday. So that's good. Like I said, this thing right here is just like a razor blade. So if you do invest in one of these, please, 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 please be careful, because it will slice your finger right off. But I'm just going to keep going with this until I get 6 cups. Like I said, this bowl is really good because it has a 6-quart mark. So I don't know when to stop. Every now and then, if you are going to do it with the mandolin, every now and then just take your hand in there and kind of move the cucumbers away from whatever you're slicing. Cucumbers, potatoes, onions, whatever you're slicing. Move it away from the edge, or it'll build up underneath it and it'll block it from falling. But when I get down low, I like to put my guard on. So I've had a lot of compliments on these pickles. These are my favorite pickles. I ate these pickles growing up. Like I said, my aunt made these pickles. My mom made a different pickle where you slice them long ways. And if I have enough left over, I might make a batch of those. But everyone seems to love these pickles. So I figure I better make a lot of these. So I'm going to go ahead and keep slicing these cucumbers. When I get them all sliced up, I'll come back and show you what's next. Thought I'd get you over here a little closer and let you see what I'm doing. I'm going to wipe a little bit of this cucumber juice off, and that way it don't run over the side of my bowl onto my counter. But I just kind of go like this. Like I said, please be careful. This thing terrifies me. I have a fear of getting cut. I don't know why. I'm so weird. I can't even watch them cut my lunch meat at the deli counter on the slicer. So I just keep slicing until I get a good spot, and then I put my guard on. I think I got this on QVC, this mandolin, so if you're interested, they may still carry them. I've had it for a while, probably 4 or 5 years actually, or maybe longer, but I do use it a lot. Now if I'm just cutting up potatoes for dinner, for me and my husband and my son, I don't get it out, I just cut it by hand. But if I'm doing something like this, yeah, I'm going to get this mandolin out. Oh, it also has, let me show you this. It also has teeth on it that come out. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see. But it's that way if you want diced. I've never used the dice thing, so only thing I ever use is a slicer. But I'm sure the diced one works just fine. I've just never used it. And I don't even know the brand of this. It doesn't have anything wrote on it. So I'm going to keep going with this. I just wanted to show you how I do it. You can see how much I've got to go to this line right here to get my 6 quart. So I may have enough pickles. So, I mean, enough pickles. Enough cucumbers, the ends cut off. I might not have to cut any more off. We'll see. But let me keep going with this and I'll get right back. All right, I've got all my cucumbers cut up. Now I need 6 cups of onions. Now, if you don't like onions, you don't have to put this in there, but it's not going to make as many pints because, like I said, this recipe says it makes 8 pints, but in the past it's been mixed. Sometimes I'll get 6 pints, sometimes I'll get 7 pints. It just depends. So it depends on how tight you pack your jars and all that good stuff. So I'm going to just do 5 onions in this one. Some people don't even like my husband, he doesn't even want onions in his, so I'll probably make a batch for him that doesn't even have onions in it. If I have enough cucumbers to do that, but we'll see. But I'm just gonna peel these onions and then we're gonna slice them. So I just leave the mandolin on the same depth as what I had for my cucumbers, and I'm just gonna slice these on the mandolin like I did the cucumbers, and that way they're all the same thickness. Now once you process these, I wait about 6 weeks. You could probably eat them before that. I usually wait about 6 weeks. I haven't made these in probably 2 years, so I was due to restock my pantry on that. But like I said, I do have another pickle I like to make. My mom made it. That one uses pickles and pickling spice. This one uses mustard seed, celery seed, and turmeric, which turmeric is really, really good for you. It's a good anti-inflammatory. So it's just another excuse for me to eat pickles. But I know you're probably tired of looking at my hands, so get these going. I just want to get all that outer layer off. I'm going to get these sliced up and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, I'm going to transfer this to a bigger pot. It's recommended that you use a really heavy wall pot because you're going to let these cucumbers set with the onions, and you're going to pour salt over them, and then you're going to put ice over them, and you let them set for 3 hours. But I don't have a lot of big heavy wall bowls that I can put these in, and I've done it like this before. They turn out just fine. So I'm going to get my cucumbers in here. Now, if you have one of those big crocks, like your grandparents used to make sauerkraut or whatever in, that would be perfect. But my crock has a crack in it, so won't be using that. And I ended up using, I think, 4 onions, and I got a little over 6 cups, which is fine. And I'm just going to put that right over top. All right. Next thing is, you're going to need 1/3 cup of salt. I already have my salt measured out in this bowl. And you just want to, I just kind of go around and sprinkle it. You don't want to dump it all in the middle. Because what the salt's going to do, the salt is going to draw out all that water in those cucumbers. Because you want to try to get out as much of that water in those cucumbers as you can. That way they're good and firm. You don't want a soggy pickle. So, alright, now next thing, I got to get some ice. So I'll be right back. Let me get that out of the freezer for you. You want to cover this ice like this. All right. Get that back in there. Okay, and then what I like to do now, I'm going to take some heavy dish towels that are clean, and we're going to put over top of it, and we're going to let this set for 3 hours. And I already have another one going, so I'll be right back with that one, and I'll show you the next steps. Okay, next step, I'm going to go ahead and get my pot ready with my vinegar and my sugar and my spices. I'm going to show you what I put in here. I'm going to go ahead and get this ready. I still have about 30 minutes left on that one, the first batch that I did, but I wanted to go ahead and get all my stuff in the pot, so when that's ready, I'll have all this ready mixed up. So I'm going to show you what I put in the pot, what the recipe calls for. All right, first thing it calls for is 5 cups of sugar. I know it's a lot of sugar, but trust me, they're good. So you're going to put 5 cups of sugar in your pot. And you need 3 cups of vinegar. I use apple cider vinegar. I've never tried white vinegar, so I'm not sure the taste. But you need 3 cups of that. And I'll put the recipe down below in the comments so everybody will have it. Okay, 3 cups of vinegar. And if you don't like the smell of vinegar, I don't know what to tell you because it's going to smell your whole house up like vinegar. All right, the next thing we need is 1½ teaspoons of celery seed, 1¼ teaspoons, 1½ teaspoons of turmeric, and 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. I already have all that measured out in this bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. And I'm to warn you, turmeric makes everything yellow. Your pot will be yellow, but it'll wash out. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a good stir. Now you do want to wait until your cucumbers are done, of course. But I wanted to go ahead and get this in here. That way I'm not having to worry about that. Because once these cucumbers are done going through their salt solution, you got to get all the moisture out of them you can. You want to run them through the colander. Press them down as hard as you can. Try to get out as much of that moisture as you can. And I'll show you that step. But I wanted to go ahead and get all this in the pot so I'm not having to worry about that when my cucumbers are done. I can get those done and then get them in the pot and get this boiling. So I'll show you that step next. I got to show y'all my apron that my niece got me. My niece and my little great nephew. It said shut your lid and can it. I thought it was appropriate to wear today. I love this apron. But I just wanted to show y'all my apron that my niece and my little great nephew got me. Alright, we're back. This has been setting for 3 hours. And I'm going to show you how I do it. Now my hands are clean. And I'm going to pull off all this ice. As much as I can off of it. See if you can see what I'm doing. Because I want you to show you, I want to show you how much moisture came off these cucumbers. I try to get off as much of the chunks of ice as I can. I know I'm not going to get every little piece, but most of it. So I hope you can see this when I get ready to pour this, because you're going to be amazed. Have a colander in my sink, and I'm going to pour. Can you hear how much moisture is coming off this? Oh, and I apologize in advance for my hair, but it's hot outside, and I wasn't about to wear my hair down, so it's up in a ponytail. Which, if you ever come to my house, my hair is probably going to be up in a ponytail, and I'm going to be barefoot. So, but get all this in your colander. Let me move this out of the way. Now what you want to do is you still want to try to keep getting the moisture out. So I'm just gonna kind of press it, because the more moisture you get out, the better your pickles are gonna be. You don't want a limp pickle. Ha ha ha. You can see, if you can tell or not, but there's a lot of water still coming out. So I'm just gonna keep working this, pressing and getting out as much of the moisture as I can. So I'll be right back, and I'll show you the next step. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and go get my cucumbers. My water is, let's see if I can get you over in the pot, simmering really good. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Whew, it's really hot. As soon as I put these cucumbers in there though, it'll cool right down. Alright, most of the moisture is off of my cucumbers. So we're just going to start putting it over in there. Like I said, as soon as I put this over in there, that temperature is going to come down on that boiling. So. And get that over in there. We're going to let this simmer for just a little bit. And I wanted to say, when I make this, I always have some liquid left over, so if you make this recipe and you have some of the brine left over, don't worry about it. That's normal. I'm going to double check my recipe. We're going to let this come to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and stir this up really good. I don't like this spoon. I'll get another one. I like my wooden spoons. I'm going to let this come back up to a boil. As you can see, I'm getting it mixed up really good. We're going to let this come back up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, I'm going to let it boil, I don't know, just a few minutes, maybe about 5 minutes, let it boil. And then we're going to start putting it into jars. I want to show you a little trick when I do my canning jars and I buy a new case of them. I don't cut the plastic all the way off. I just make a slit in the top of it and I get my jars out. That way, when I go to put these pickles back in there, it's almost sealed shut. And that way it keeps any of the dust and anything off of your jars. But that's just a little trick that I do. Everybody has their own way. I like to put my jars back in the boxes, especially if I'm going to double stack my jars. You don't want to double stack your jars on top of each other like this. You could, what it could cause is a false seal. And it could seem like your pickles are sealed or whatever you're doing is sealed. But because of the weight of the other jar, it's put a seal on the jar below it. And if you're dealing with like your beans, soups and stuff like that, it could cause botulism. And I don't want to get into that right now because I am no expert on botulism at all. I just know you should not double stack your jars unless they're in a box. If they're in a box, then they're the weight is distributed across the top of them, and it doesn't put pressure on just a single jar. It puts an even amount of pressure on the whole top of the whole pack of jars. I hope that makes sense. But I did want to give you that little piece of advice. Don't cut your plastic all the way off. Just make a slit big enough to where you can get your jars out. That way you can put them back in there. I mean, you could even put a piece of like maybe painter's tape on this, or a piece of the cling wrap put over it, and it'll keep the dust and stuff off your jar. So hope that little tip helps you. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and sterilize my jars. I know everybody has their own way of doing it. This is how I do it. I have a pan of boiling water, and I just take my jars and I put them in there, and I roll them around. I've already washed these, so they're clean. I'm just sterilizing them right now. But this is how I do it. I'm sure there's 100 ways to do it, and I'm sure everybody has their own, but this is how I do it. Flip them over on my towel. But I just roll them in the hot water, sterilize them really good. Make sure I get the bottom, and then I pour them out. But this is how I do it. I also do my lids, and I do my rings. I'm just weird like that, but I just wanted to show you how I do my jars. Like I said, I just put them over in there in the hot water, roll them around a few times. I've never had any issues. So I'm going to keep going with this. And then next step will be packing the jars, and I'll show you how to do that. While I'm waiting for this to come back up to a boil, there's a few things that I use that you might need. I use a jar lifter, which looks like this, and it's for picking up hot jars, and I'll be showing you that when I do the water bath cannon. I also use this thing right here. I don't know what it's called. Put it on top of your jars. It helps. It's like a funnel. It also, mine has measurements on it to show you how much headspace you need. When you're pressure canning, you got to watch your headspace. On my pickles, I leave it down about an inch. I think that's basic for everything, about an inch. This already has headspace markings on it. I have about 5 of these. They're all different kinds. I have old ones. This was a new one. But I use that. I use a ladle, and that'll help me get my brine over in my jars. And I use a couple different pair of tongs. But these are just some of the tools that I use. I just wanted to show you. We'll use the jar lifter when we're doing the water bath, when I'm taking them out of the water bath. But I just wanted to show you a few of the things that I use. Alright, while I'm waiting for my cucumbers solution to come up to a boil, I've got my jars over here. They've already been sterilized. I've got my funnel ready. I got my spoon ready. I got my label ready. And I got my tongs ready. So everything's laid out. I know my kitchen is a mess, but this is what happens when I can. Everything gets crazy. I pull everything out that I need. I don't have a very big kitchen anyway, so my space is limited. But I'm just waiting for this to come up to a good rolling boil. Once it does that, we can start packing it in our jars. And then we can get it in the water bath canner. Now, I have a water bath canner. But I'm going to show you my trick when I'm doing something like this. Because I don't have that much. I'm just going to put it in a pot. And I'll show you how I do that to keep my jars from breaking. It's probably not the most traditional or conventional way to do it, but it's how I do it. It works. So that way I don't have to pull out my big canning pot and the racks and all that when I'm just doing these little batches like this right here. One less thing I got to worry about. So when this right here gets boiling, I'll come back and I'll show you how we pack them into jars, and then I'll show you how I water bath them. Be right back. Okay, so the cucumbers are boiling. They've been boiling for cucumbers and onions have been boiling for about 5 minutes now. So I'm going to see if you can see that over in there. See how it's boiling? It's really easy to move them around now. Everything's been boiling good. So we're ready to start putting them in our jars. So what I like to do is I have a damp paper towel. Once I put them in the jars, but right before I put the lid on, I like to go around the edge of my rim of my jar, and I like to take a damp paper towel because this right here is really, really sticky. And if it gets on there, you're not going to get a seal. And this is for anything you're canning. You want to go and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and get my tongs. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting this into jars. Get this over. And it is very, very sticky. So, and I just pick up some, drop it over in there. I don't like to pack it really, really tight. I usually try to keep about 1 inch. And then once I get that, take my ladle and I get up some of that juice. And I want to fill it to about, I say the first rim, which is probably about 1 inch. And then you can take a knife and go down in there. Make sure there's no air pockets. Which that one did have a little air pocket. So you want to just kind of redistribute that liquid a little bit and then continue to fill. I didn't need to put that much more in it, so that was good. And then I'm gonna just kind of switch them around. Be careful because the jars are gonna get really, really hot. And you just want to keep doing that until you get all your jars full. Like I said, this mixture is really, really sticky because it's got 5 cups of sugar in it, so it's going to be sticky. And I was going to tell you, if that turmeric is really, really yellow, if you get it on, like, I got it on my colander, and it turned my colander a little white. I mean, a little yellow. Sorry about that. No big deal. Once you put it, if you put it in the dishwasher, it comes right out. So I don't care if I have a little yellow on my colander, but if you do care, I was just letting you know, you can put it in the dishwasher and that stain will come right out. And I'm going to keep on doing this, and when I get them all full, I'll show you the next step. Okay, I got all my jars full. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to wipe all my rims off. This is just a damp paper towel. It's not dripping wet. But you want to get all those rims wiped off. Alright, and now I can put my lids on. I always over sterilize jars. I always sterilize way too many. So now the rings, and the trick on the rings is you don't want them really tight. So let me get these on here. You want to do what they call finger tight. So you want to take 2 fingers and tighten it. You don't want to put them on there really hard. Mostly that's for pressure canning, but I'd use it for water bath canning too. I just get them finger tight. Be careful because your jars are, that pickle juice and stuff is hot. So you gotta be careful. Like I said, you don't want to get your jars too tight. What will happen, especially if you're pressure canning, if you get your jars too tight, your lids will buckle and they won't, your jars are, whatever you're canning will be ruined. 1, it won't seal, and 2, most of the time whatever's in there will leak out. Got all my jars, lids on, sealed, everything was wiped down. Next step is to get them in the water bath canner, and I'm going to show you that trick. Alright, my trick for the water bath canner is, this is, it's an enamel pot. It's the same thing that the water bath canners are made out of, your canning pots. I just don't have a lid for it. I can use a pizza pan or whatever. I don't feel like going down and getting the rack and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a heavy dish towel and I'm going to lay it in the bottom of the pot. And I'm going to get my jars. And I'm going to put them over in here. Keeping a little bit of space between them. Alright, let me get y'all a little bit closer. Now what I'm going to do is I got more clean dish towels. And I'm going to make it like a ribbon. And I'm going to weave it between these jars. And what that's going to do, it's going to keep these jars from hitting together and breaking. This is just my little trick that I do. I really should just go down and get the canner, but I'm being a little lazy today. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that other little, there's a little bit of a space right here. I'm going to fill it in with the towel too. And everything should be good. All you're wanting to do is keep these jars from beating and banging up against each other. So this right here will do the trick on that. I'm going to fill this up with water and I'm going to get it on my stove, and then I'll show you what to do next, which is basically all you're going to do is boil, get it up to a rolling boil, and you're going to let it boil for 5 minutes. And I'll show you that. Okay, I got my canner full. I got it on my stove. I have about 1 inch of water over top of my jars. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this on high and let this come up to a boil. Once this comes up to a boil, we're going to let it boil for 5 minutes, and then we're going to cut it off, and we're not going to touch it until it's cooled down enough to where I can get the jars out. A couple things I wanted to say. 1 inch of water over top of your jars. Make sure your jars aren't touching. That's why if you're using a water bath canner, like made out of this material right here, it has a rack in it and it keeps your jars from touching, but I didn't want to go downstairs and get into all that. So I'm just using this with the towels around it. My mom and dad did this for years. I've done this for years. Another thing I wanted to say, by no means am I an expert canner. This is how I do it. This is how I've always done it. So do your own thing. Research it. There's plenty of research out there on Google. There's plenty of books, the library. There's canning books. There's everything. So just do your own thing. This is how I do it. I just wanted to show you how I do it. This is how I do my pickles. I'll also be doing a video probably on how I can tomatoes, and possibly on how I can green beans. Green beans is a whole different thing because that's when you're going to get into your pressure canners. So this is how I'm doing my pickles. So when this starts coming up to a boil, I'll show y'all the next step after that. But basically, it's let it come up to a boil, let it boil 5 minutes, cut it off, and let it cool down naturally, and then take your jars out and just leave them on the counter until you hear the pop. And I'm going to tell you, if you've ever canned anything, the best sound in the world is when you hear that jar ping. I've been canning for probably 20 some years now, and I've never had a jar not ping on me. So one other thing I wanted to say, some people don't feel comfortable putting a canner on their glass top stove. I'm okay with it as long as it's not too full. This one right here is just pint jars. I'm okay with it. If I was doing quarts and I had this many, I'd probably do it on my stovetop outside. So I'll come back and show you what the next step is. Alright, so my pickles have been in the water bath boiling for 5 minutes. I've slid them off the stove. I'm letting them cool down now. But I was going to show you what they look like when they're done. This is the first batch I done. I got 5 out of the first batch. Second batch I got 7. So total out of 2 batches I got 12 pints of pickles. I'm really, really happy with these. I think you're really going to like this recipe. It's really good. It's a lot of steps, but when you go to taste them, it is so worth it. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button, and if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section below. And I can't wait to do my next video for you. Have a great day.